Life before the betrayal felt as solid as the foundations I spent years pouring into Phoenix's sprawling suburbs. My name is Jake Harper, a construction foreman who believed in the permanence of things, steel beams, concrete, vows. Emily and I married young, 2 kids from Mesa who thought love was a blueprint you could follow. For 8 years, we built routines as carefully as I engineered parking garages. Friday night takeout, Sunday hikes in the Sonoran Desert, her laughter echoing off red rocks as I snapped photos she'd later post with hashtags like blessed. The first fissure appeared in January, though I didn't recognize it then. Emily started working late at the cosmetic surgery clinic where she managed appointments. "Dr. Voss needs help organizing a charity gala," she'd say, slipping off heels that left indentations on our hardwood floors. I'd nod, my hands still gritty from site inspections, and reheat her abandoned dinner. Her phone buzzed constantly. Texts from clients at odd hours, Instagram notifications from men with shirtless profile pics. When I joked about it, she rolled her eyes. "You're paranoid. These are just rich housewives bored between Botox appointments." But the Emily I knew, the woman who once dragged me to a midnight screening of The Notebook just to sob into my shoulder, was fading. She stopped wearing the turquoise pendant I'd bought her on our anniversary, claiming it clashed with her scrubs. Her perfume changed, something muskier that clung to her collarbone even after showers. One night, I found a receipt in her gym bag for a $400 dinner at Maestro's, paid in cash. When I asked, she shrugged. Dr. Voss treated the staff. "You think I'd waste our money on steak?" The lie burned sharper than the truth. I began cataloguing anomalies like defective materials, the way she angled her phone screen away when I entered rooms, the sudden interest in spin classes at 6 a.m., her yoga pants still crisp, untouched by sweat. The weekend she visited her sister in Tucson, but forgot to take the overnight bag I'd packed for her. The collapse happened on a Thursday. I'd left work early to surprise her with tickets to Sedona, only to find a plum-colored Ducati parked in our driveway. Through the kitchen window, I saw him, a man in a black Henley shirt, tattoos snaking up his forearms, leaning against the counter Emily had picked out at Home Depot. She stood between his spread legs, her fingers tangled in his hair as he kissed her throat. A toolbox sat open by the sink, wrenches gleaming like surgical instruments. I didn't confront them, didn't slam doors or throw punches. Instead, I drove to the job site and sat in my pickup, staring at the skeletal frame of a half-built office tower. The moon cast long shadows through rebar, and I wondered how many marriages had disintegrated in those unfinished rooms. At dawn, I returned home. Emily waited at the dining table, her face a mask of tear-streaked mascara. She didn't apologize, didn't beg, just said it didn't mean anything, as if infidelity were a typo in an email. When I emptied my dresser into a duffel bag, she grabbed my wrist. "You'll never find someone who loves you like I did." Her nails left crescent moons on my skin, a final brand. The real unraveling began days later. While transferring utilities to my name, I discovered shared cloud storage she'd forgotten to revoke. The folder labeled Renovation Ideas held 83 files. Video after video of them in our bed, on our porch swing, in the shower where we'd painted the tiles cerulean blue last summer. The worst wasn't the sex. It was the casual cruelty. In one clip, she laughed as he mockingly wore my college sweatshirt, the ASU logo stretched across his broader shoulders. "Look, I'm Jake," he jeered, mimicking my walk. Emily doubled over, clutching her ribs like it was the funniest joke she'd ever heard. I copied every file, created backups on encrypted drives. Then I dug deeper. His name was Travis Maddox, 34. 2 DUIs, an ex-Marine discharge for conduct unbecoming, currently working as a freelance contractor, a fancy term for unlicensed handyman. Social media revealed a life of gym selfies, Confederate flag memorabilia, and rants about gold-digging whores. But the gem was buried in Maricopa County court records, a restraining order from an ex-girlfriend who accused him of revenge porn. Emily, meanwhile, pivoted to performative grief. She posted throwback photos of us with captions like, "Real love never dies," her nails freshly manicured in grief-appropriate nude. When mutual friends asked, she'd sigh about growing apart and pat her chest where my pendant used to rest. I quit sleeping. Spent nights cross-referencing Travis's patterns. Every Tuesday and Thursday, he parked at the LA Fitness on 7th Street. Fridays, he drank at a biker bar called the Iron Stallion. His Instagram stories flaunted cash rolls and Rolex knockoffs, hashtagged Ash Hustle Hard. One detail gnawed at me. In 3 separate videos, Emily wore a diamond tennis bracelet I'd never seen. Zooming in, I recognized the twisted cable design, a signature piece from Romano's Jewelers, a downtown boutique far beyond our budget. The receipt took 6 hours to find, buried in a shredded document folder she'd forgotten to empty. $2,300 charged to a card under Travis's name. That's when the plan crystallized. Not a crime of passion, but a demolition. Methodical, irreversible, engineered to specifications only a builder would understand. I started with small things. Replaced the batteries in our smoke detectors. Installed motion-activated cameras in the garage. Took out a life insurance policy, listing Emily as beneficiary. Let her think forgiveness was possible, and waited for the walls to cave in on their own. Weeks bled into months, each sunrise staining the desert sky the color of fresh bruises. I moved into a rented trailer near the construction site, its aluminum walls vibrating with the hum of generators. Emily's name still lingered on mortgage papers, but the house felt like a museum now, a monument to a version of myself I no longer recognized. My days became a ritual of concrete pours and steel inspections, my nights a silent excavation of Travis Maddox's life. The man was a schematic of vulnerabilities. His LinkedIn listed certifications he'd never earned: OSHA 30-hour, EPA lead renovator. A reverse image search traced his contractor logo to a stock photo site. But the real gold came from a burner phone I bought at a gas end sip, its receipt smudged with fryer grease. Posing as a property manager on Craigslist, I offered Travis a cash job. Urgent roof repair, no permits, no questions. He bit instantly. I met him at an abandoned strip mall on the outskirts of Glendale, its parking lot cracked and studded with sagebrush. He arrived in that plum Ducati, helmet tucked under one arm like a prop from a bad action movie. Up close, the tattoos told stories: Semper Fi in fading ink, a skull with Mom banner, the kind of art you regret after the 3rd beer. I wore a high-vis vest and a Dodgers cap pulled low, my voice roughened by menthol lozenges. "Owner wants it done quiet," I said, handing him an envelope of hundreds. "No invoices, no paper trail?" He thumbed the bills, smirking. "Hell, I'll do it for half if you throw in some Adderall." The next phase required precision. I rented a storage unit under a fake LLC, filled it with stolen copper wiring and power tools. Items lifted from my own sites, untraceable. Then, using a voice changer app, I tipped off Phoenix PD about suspicious activity at the unit. When they busted it, Travis's prints were everywhere. The ladder he'd used at our house, the wrench set I'd planted, even a Burger King napkin he'd tossed in my truck bed. The arrest report made the evening news. Local contractor charged in major theft ring. Emily called me that night, her voice a shaky whisper. "Did you see? They're saying he stole from your company." I stared at the trailer's water-stained ceiling, imagining her clutching the phone in our old kitchen, the one where he'd pinned her against the fridge. "Karma's a bitch," I said, and hung up. But karma wasn't enough. Emily's Instagram became a slideshow of desperation. Single life posts at cocktail bars, filtered selfies with hashtags like "stronger every day." Meanwhile, Travis's bail hearing loomed. I attended in the back row, sunglasses hiding my face, as his public defender argued he'd been framed. The judge wasn't convinced. The real masterpiece came from a Craigslist ad I'd posted in the Men Seeking Men section using Travis's number. Looking for discreet fun, send pics. By noon, his inbox flooded with dick pics from strangers. I screen recorded every exchange, spliced them into a video set to yakety sax, and mailed the DVD to his probation officer. But Emily needed a different kind of fire. Dr. Voss's clinic had a back door, literally. Security cameras looped footage every Sunday during maintenance. I waited until 3 a.m., dressed as a janitor, and slipped into Emily's office. Her computer password? Our dead lab's name. Client files revealed a treasure trove. Botox parties for politicians' wives, off-the-books procedures, a spreadsheet labeled VIP tax write-offs. I copied it all onto a pink Hello Kitty thumb drive and left it in the break room microwave. The Arizona Medical Board raided the clinic 2 days later. Dr. Voss blamed a disgruntled employee. Emily's LinkedIn went dark by noon. Still, the house remained, a tumor I couldn't excise. I hired a realtor, a shark in a pantsuit, who listed it as a motivated sale. The open house drew vultures, flippers, influencers, a couple filming a TikTok dance in the master shower. I stood across the street watching strangers traipse through what used to be our sanctuary and felt nothing. The final touch was a Craigslist ad of my own. Free designer furniture, must haul today. By sundown, every stick of our life was gone, even the porch swing where she'd kissed him. All that remained was a single item, left in the center of the empty living room. The diamond bracelet Travis had bought her, its clasp pried open like a dead cicada. When the foreclosure notice came, I burned it in a coffee can, the flames licking at the night air. Somewhere in the city, Emily was learning the weight of a name no longer tethered to mine. And Travis? He'd soon discover prison bars make poor substitutes for the ones he'd helped me forge. Revenge, I realized, wasn't a hammer swing. It was watching the load-bearing walls crumble, one calculated crack at a time. Phoenix summers have a way of reducing everything to ash. By July, the thermometer clung to 115 degrees, and the desert smelled like scorched tires. I'd taken a new project, a luxury condo complex near Camelback Mountain, where the earth resisted foundations, stubborn as a scorned lover. Each morning, I'd arrive before the crew, watching bulldozers carve into the land like surgeons. My trailer office became a war room, blueprints pinned to particle board walls alongside timelines of Emily's unraveling. She'd moved into a downtown loft with a real estate agent named Darren, a man whose Instagram bio read, "Luxury Lifestyle Curator." Their photos glowed with rooftop champagne toasts, her diamond bracelet replaced by a Cartier tank watch. But the cracks were spreading. A subpoena arrived at my trailer. Dr. Voss's clinic was suing Emily for breach of confidentiality. Her name trended locally after someone leaked patient records to a TMZ knockoff blog. The headline, Botox and Blackmail. Inside Arizona's secret beauty scandals. Travis, meanwhile, violated probation when a urine test lit up for meth. His mugshot circulated, hollow-eyed, the Semper Fi tattoo now flanked by jailhouse ink. I mailed him a care package, nicotine patches, Sudoku puzzles, and a printout of Emily's engagement photos with Darren. No return address. The final play required patience. Months earlier, I'd enrolled in a wildfire mitigation course, certifying my crew for controlled burns. The instructor's words stuck. Fire follows the path you carve for it. On a windless night, I drove to Emily's childhood home in Gilbert, where her widowed mother still lived in a ranch-style house choked by mesquite trees. The garage key hung under a garden gnome, right where Emily told me it would during one of our first dates. Inside, I found what I needed. Boxes of her teenage journals, love letters I'd written, photo albums of us at Lake Havasu. I burned none of it. Instead, I shipped it all to Darren S. office with a forged note from Emily S. Storage. Thought you do want these for the wedding montage. The package arrived the day after their New York Times Vows section feature went live. By sunset, Darren's Instagram was private, By dawn, Emily's loft was listed as a motivated lease transfer. The house sold in August to a flipper who painted our navy shutters institutional grey. At the closing, I handed the keys to a woman in a Live Laugh Love sweatshirt. "It's got good bones," she said. "I didn't mention the foundation cracks we'd patched, the termite damage hidden behind drywall." Travis died 2 weeks later, not by my hand, but by his own carelessness. Parolees aren't supposed to ride motorcycles through South Mountain Park at midnight. They found his Ducati wrapped around a saguaro, his body flung into a ravine. The news called it a tragedy. I called it structural failure. Emily surfaced in October, working the graveyard shift at a Scottsdale urgent care. I drove past once, watching her through rain-specked glass as she restocked tongue depressors. She'd aged a decade in months, her hair frizzed from cheap dye, that Cartier watch replaced by a drugstore Fitbit. For a moment, I considered walking in, asking if she remembered the time we got lost, hiking Pistewa Peak, how she'd kissed me while coyotes yipped in the distance. But nostalgia is gasoline, and I'd sworn off arson. The condo project finished ahead of schedule. At the ribbon-cutting, reporters asked about my vision. I talked about seismic retrofitting, load-bearing walls, the importance of anchors. That night, alone in the trailer, I opened a safe deposit box containing 3 items: Travis's obituary, Emily's foreclosure notice, and a USB drive with every video she'd made. I drove to the landfill west of Tonopah, where the city buries its secrets. The USB shattered under my boot heel, plastic shards swallowed by mounds of rotting sheetrock and dead appliances. On the way back, I detoured past our old house. The new owners had strung patio lights shaped like pineapples, hung a "Bless This Mess" sign where our wedding photo once hung. Somewhere in the desert, coyotes began their nightly chorus, a sound like laughter, like hunger. I wondered if they'd found Travis's body, if his bones now fed the roots of Ocotillos. Revenge, I realized, isn't a destination. It's the echo of a slammed door, reverberating long after the house empties. At the construction site, I doused the last remnants of our blueprints in diesel and struck a match. The flames climbed hungrily, illuminating steel beams that would outlast every lie we'd ever told. Heat washed over me, purging the last ghosts of what we'd been. By morning, the ash would blend with Arizona's red soil, fertile ground for whatever came next. I got in my truck and turned the key. The engine roared, a sound as dependable as concrete setting. Somewhere ahead, the highway stretched into darkness, its yellow lines a guide toward horizons unburdened by the past.